right, welcome everyone. My name is Lakia Newton, class of 2011. Wow. And I'm currently the director of King School, a pre-K through grade 12 independent school. I studied marketing at Bentley University and built a diverse career across retail, e-commerce software, and now in education. At Bentley, I was active in campus life, including Fire Step Squad, BUB, I was an RA, and I participated in multiple study abroad programs. In my professional and volunteer work, it also centers on diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. And today I'm excited to kind of bring all those experiences together as your moderator for this evening. This event is being hosted by the Bentley Mosaic Alumni Council, which started in 2021. It helps to unite Mosaic alumni and students through intentional engagement in an effort to build fellowship and strengthen the connections within the Bentley network. Welcome to the BMAC speaker series. Tonight's topic is storytelling, strategy, and the power of creativity. I am going to start by having our panelists introduce themselves. If you can introduce yourself, share when you graduated, what did you study at Bentley, and as a student, what were some things that you were involved in? And I'm going to have it go Dodson, Nomblay, Reginald, and then Sid.
Cool. Hey everyone, my name is Dodson Bennett. I'm from Dorchester, Massachusetts. Graphic designer and co-founder of a brand called Myth Boston. And also work at Reebok, but I get into that at the end. I graduated Bentley class of 2020. I studied marketing with an LSM in Media Arts and Society. I was the president of MKM for 2 years. I was a part of BUB, ASA. Man, a few other things that's just not well. I'm a steppy for one. Sorry, I should have started off with that. I'm a step student. Shout out to Claudette. And then now I am at Reebok doing global brand marketing for streetwear and energy. Let me know if I missed anything.
Hey, good evening, everyone. My name is Namble Coleman, and I'm a proud member of the class of 2011, along with Lakia and Sid on the line. While at Bentley, I studied marketing, and I was a part of the National Association of Black Accountants. I served as their president, as a part of BUB, also involved in the National Black MBA Association. I did a couple of case competitions with them while in school and brought home some trophies and cash, which was lovely. And then also participated in a study abroad and went to London for a semester with Bentley as well. So fond of my time at Bentley. And when I got the invite to do this, couldn't wait to hop on and speak with you all. So excited to share tonight from profession, and we'll get in further here, but I'm currently at the Hershey Company, serving as a manager on our omni-channel marketing team. So helping to drive demand in store or online. So looking forward to any questions you have and the discussion.
Hi, everyone. My name is Reggie. I'm part of the class of 2021. I'm originally from Dorchester. Outside of that, during Bentley, I studied marketing and I was super involved on campus. I led our annual fashion show for BUB, which I was really excited about. I was a part of admissions committee. I was a part of pretty much anything that like the MCC ever held. It was just a really good time, and like I felt like I was super involved on campus as a whole. I also studied abroad. I studied abroad in Singapore specifically, and that was, a weird time because it was at the beginning of COVID. So it was like that January 2020 to kind of March timing, but it was really just dope to, experience something that was completely new and very different. Outside of kind of my education, started out my career at P&G and brand management. So like a marketer through and through in brand marketing. And now I'm at Ralph Lauren, which probably makes sense given, the fashion show work. Currently at Ralph Lauren, I'm leading men's polo marketing. So, how we show up across North America for men's polo. Excited for this conversation and good to see everybody.
All right. Hi, everyone. I'm Sydney Diaz. You can call me Sid for short. I am also a part of the class of 2011, and same reaction as Lakia and Namble. Whoa, time flies. It feels like just yesterday we were all together. But let's see. I was a member of the Bentley Fire Step Squad as well. Very strong run we had, ladies for sure. And then I was also a member of the Bentley radio station for a couple of years, which actually helped facilitate my transition into a DJ part-time at that time. And then my major was computer information systems. So after graduation, I went into some internal IT as well as software support for a few startups in Boston. And during that time, I had still been carrying DJing as a strong hobby on the side, which eventually, fast forward to about 2018, transitioned to my full-time business where I manage about 16 different DJs and MCs now for various events throughout Greater Boston, as well as I am still a member of the um, Jammin' 94.5 FM DJ team. So I do 2 nights a week on that radio station. So happy to be here with everyone.
Awesome. Thank you all. Some of you kind of got into this question a little bit in your answer, so I'm gonna add a little bit more. Can you share a little bit more about your current role and how you were introduced to that industry and what made you choose work in that industry? If you've already covered that, if you could highlight any recent accomplishments or major projects you've been involved in, that would be great. We're gonna start in the reverse. Sid, I'm gonna have you continue kind of because you started this already. And then we're gonna go to Reginald, then Namble, then Dodson.
Sure. So I would say when people ask me this question a lot, I kind of say DJing and entertainment found me in a way. Because as I said, I had my whole plan was to pursue computer information systems at Bentley, which I did do and see that through. But along the way, came, some passion for music and live mixing, honestly. I feel like I was kind of thrown into it, maybe by peers, and eventually found my mentor, who was another Bentley alum, Walter Spradley, who has since passed. But yeah, I would say, you know, I tell people all the time, like, you could have a plan, but your experiences, at a place like Bentley can shift that plan a little bit. And it's great to have an open mind. I felt like I was very open-minded about, maybe computer information systems is something I'm going to do, but is that something I want to do long term? And the answer to that now was no. I still keep the skills in my back pocket, of course, but the passion is definitely with DJing um, and music at this point. I know Kia, you had highlighted my position on Jammin' 94.5, which was actually much earlier in my career, where I was doing a lot of nightlife and radio at that time. But now, as I was just chatting with Namle about where we had been at a wedding together, I'm more in the private event space now and managing like a full team of entertainers. So we're talking like weddings, corporate events, birthdays, family gatherings, and things like that.
Yeah, for me specifically, so working in fashion is really interesting now for doing it full time because I've just grown up around it. My mom was a fashion stylist. She did fashion productions growing up, so I was always around the runway shows and the models and everything like that. And more than that, just growing up, I found my the ability to brand myself, right, through the clothes that I wear and through tapping into culture and obviously, music plays a role in that and wanting to just be young and cool. And so Finding my way here took some time though, where like, where I'm doing it full time because I started out my brand. I started out my first clothing brand back in 8th grade. I did my first fashion internship probably at the top of high school. From there, I kind of took a break from fashion to do more around entrepreneurship and more around business, which is what led me to Bentley. And then after I went to Bentley, did more traditional marketing, more CPG type work. And then after P&G, I started my own fashion styling company. And then that kind of, was good to open the door for Ralph. So I would say, not everything happens exactly to plan, but the way I got here, like I would say that every single thing I did before I got here helped me, in kind of the role I'm in today.
Yeah, the journey to Hershey was a winding one for me, but it all started at Bentley. Coming into Bentley, I knew I wanted to study business, so that's what attracted me to the school. But I just didn't know, what flavor, what lane, and then just kind of took classes and fell in love with marketing. And really just discovered this passion for understanding why do consumers make decisions at shelf, what influences those decisions, and so through Bentley, I was able to land 2 consecutive internships with McDonald's. So global brand, right? The ones who, are just masters at consumer branding overall on a global scale, which was of interest to me. So after completing those internships, I knew I wanted to continue going into marketing, but wanted to pivot it off. Thank you. I wanted to pivot until a different industry afterwards. So after Bentley, I went into tech. So high tech. At EMC Corporation out in Hopkinton, Massachusetts, and stayed there for 5 years, really working on product marketing. So a different type of marketing that gave me a lot of exposure to how sales teams work. How do you drive growth? What does innovation look like? How do you work in fast-paced markets? And learned a ton in that. Again, building on the experience I got from Bentley, but I knew that wasn't really a passion of mine. So I decided to pivot into grad school. So went over to Georgetown, did my MBA there, and then was able to land my Hershey job out of that experience. So I'd say Bentley though set the foundation for that love of consumer, love of global brands, and has kept me at Hershey for the past 7 years. So excited to dig into more Hershey stories if you guys would like as we continue here. But I'll pause there for now.
How did I get here? First pair of Jordans was 2020, not 2020, 2012. Kind of fell in love with sneakers and fashion and everything in between that around that time. And growing up as a city kid, you kind of saw, obviously you saw Jordans and Nikes, but there's obviously clothing involved as well, and just couldn't afford it at the time. So I think me starting my brand in high school kind of opened up the doors to see, how clothing is made. And then eventually I started to pay attention to how footwear is made. Since I had the brand, I kind of wanted to learn how to market it. So that's how I ended up at Bentley, and wanted to be a better marketer, especially in the clothing space. And from there, I kind of continued my love for clothing and footwear. All of my roommates were into it, and we had YouTube channels about it, and we just loved it so much. And I think once I found out all of the, not all of the major footwear brands are there, but Puma, Reebok, New Balance, a lot of the brands are in Boston. So I was able to, navigate my way through and ended up at Reebok. My best friend was there first, and then he opened up that door for me. So yeah, that's kind of how I got to there. And again, I just love clothing and footwear, so wanted to work in it.
Awesome. Um, so in your workplace and career experience, have you been able to be your authentic self? And how have you navigated that? Are there any resources, programs available to you at your job or within your career that has helped? It seems like when I hear all of you speak, you are speaking to the decision and where you are right now in your career and where you work is very personal. So I'm interested to hear that. Really, any one of you can answer, all of you can answer. It's up to you. You just like raise your hand and I'll call on you if you want to answer. I'll okay, go ahead, Sid.
Yeah, I mean, for my current line of work, I feel like I have to be my authentic self, and there's really no other choice, because my brand started as, DJ L Sid. That was my DJ name. And, when you're performing in front of hundreds and thousands of people, sometimes that is who they're getting, not only through the music selection, but also through the MC presence, the mic work, and things like that. So I feel like our strongest assets as DJs and MCs are being our authentic self. And thankfully, that is an industry where that's super normal and accepted, and definitely, just like a super good tool to just be able to showcase. And when we're talking about marketing, I feel like that's probably one of the easiest things there is to do in my line of work, because a lot of it is showing what we do, how we mix, how we speak, what our presence is. And ultimately that is grabbing the attention of a potential client who says, that's the kind of vibe we want for our celebration. So I definitely feel like I'm able to be my authentic self.
Yeah, when I hear authentic self, it just takes me back to like starting out in a company and maybe being more junior and thinking, can I show up as who I am? Is my point of view going to be appreciated or wanted? And um, I found that the answer is yes to that question, that you've been brought into whatever organization that you land in for a reason. They value your experience. We talk a lot about diversity of thought. And so, having carbon copies of the same person at the table trying to make a decision leads to worse outcomes. And so, the research shows that having that diversity of thought, opinion, challenging each other's assumptions is important. And so I learned to develop my voice and feel confident in my voice and be able to share when there's a business decision on the table. What have I seen, and bringing that to the table, and then receiving feedback that was valued. So I'd say, bringing my unique point of view to the table is important. But then even just showing up in spaces where you may feel othered. So I don't have many people in my work environment day to day that look like me. And so finding community with others that are across the company, not just within my department, joining business resource groups that usually exist at companies, different ERGs, employee groups of like-minded individuals, just to have another perspective of how their experiences at the company has often given me confidence too, and how to show up. So similar how at Bentley we have our clubs and groups, and you have to find strength when you find your tribe. That kind of gives you the energy you need to go back out into the general population and kind of be who you are. And then just lead it in, like showing up in braids and earrings, whatever, really just getting that confidence to be who I am. And it's been well received.
Anyone else have anything else to add?
The one thing I'll add is that the advice that I got from my SVP, so it was my first job at P&G. She actually happened to become, she actually was a Black woman specifically, but she was getting onboarded to the business. She was just coming on, and I had probably been on the business for about a year at that point. And during the meeting, I said nothing. And like she took me aside after, and she was just like, I never want to see that again. Like, we pay you for your opinion. And oftentimes, you're in rooms where you're the youngest, you're the only one who looks like you may be the only one from your school, or even your area of the country. And so sometimes when there's so many ideas being thrown around that you may not resonate with, and you may not know if it's a good idea or not because they're all agreeing, but you just don't have that lived experience, you sometimes may shut down, or you may just choose to sit that conversation out. But what I've tried to do is actually lean into those conversations and learn from them and challenge them and ask questions and find different ways to kind of resonate with what's going on, because my lived experience is going to make sure that a view is represented that may not already be represented if I wasn't there. So that would just be my encouragement, like just lean in, ask the questions, be involved, even if you feel like you're the only one.
Quick build on that too. For just, you asked about resources and what could people do to help feel more comfortable being their authentic self. I say just getting to know the people that you work with on a personal level. I found that when I meet new stakeholders or I'm on a new team, like grabbing 30 minutes with the person individually to like connect on a personal level helps to make it easier for those big meetings to share my point of view. So I recommend, sharing a little nugget about yourself, whether it's something, a workout you do, some personal interest, just that little nugget of shared interest helps to make those work conversations go easier, helps to get a quicker email sometimes. So that's helped me make that journey a little easier.
Dotson, were you going to say something? I saw you unmute at one point. You're good to go. Okay. So what would you say are some of the biggest opportunities for growth, either within your company or you're seeing in the industry? If someone was either in school now or younger in their career or trying to switch careers, are there any areas that you would recommend where things are growing or improving, that you would recommend?
I mean, I'll say the obvious one, right? We're all thinking of it, probably AI. That continues to be a growth area. It is, in every town hall and every global strategy because it's not going away. One thing Ralph recently did was come out with like an app that'll help you style yourself, with our clothes. And so that'll be, a big point of our strategy going forward. And so just like familiarizing yourself with what the companies who you're applying for are doing with AI is pretty important, but also like just from a productivity standpoint, right? Like how can you use AI to make your work easier, even the process easier, right? Like I wouldn't suggest using AI to write your cover letter completely or your resume completely, but how can you use some of those tools to ensure that like you're using the right, action verbs or action words to, start off that line and the results that you delivered at your prior internship or your prior job to make sure that you're getting through that ATS system to ultimately get the job? Or how are you thinking about how are you using AI to think about the strategy for how you're going to approach the different companies you're going to apply for and, figure out, what the coffee chat email is going to look like? Like, I would just encourage you now to start thinking about how can AI be your friend, especially as you start on the journey of looking for a job or trying to connect with other alums who are at jobs that you potentially want to go to.
Go ahead, Sid.
So Reginald brought up a great topic, which, yeah, might be like the big topic in the room, but it's affecting everyone. So I figured I'd put a twist on that where I would probably not recommend anyone go into radio because I think it is a dying business. And a lot of that does have to do with AI, a lot of it doesn't, but I guess if we take a look at the period of time before AI, I guess streaming, right, which is still the main method of consumption when it comes to audio, music, podcasts, things like that. Just like the reliance on a morning show or a radio station is just a lot less these days because you can get that same information a multitude of ways at your fingertips. And to take that one step further, when we're talking about AI, I know Reginald, I think you mentioned like AI can like help you design like an outfit or something now, right? Well, AI is now helping the average listener, Spotify user mix their own playlists. That's a feature that actually just came out a few weeks ago. I think it's still in beta. But to a DJ, that's quite frightening, to be honest, because, the question we're all asking ourselves is that going to replace the need for a live mixer at some point? Whereas if you're on the tech side, right, you're excited about that because that's super innovative and people can now consume music at a more skillful level with less skill, if that makes any sense. Um, so yeah, hopefully that makes sense. I
Yeah.
figured give an opposite kind of take on that.
And can I just say one more thing to that? Because that is such a great point. Like, being from the business world, right? I think a lot of the jobs, when we look at the forecast of, the different jobs that AI will impact, a lot of them will come from white collar jobs, which, sometimes, we all working coming from Bentley. And one of the things I've been thinking about a lot is like, yes, we're super business minded, we're entrepreneurs, we're business owners, at least that's what Bentley trains us to be. But like we should also be thinking about those businesses that, AI can't come in to replicate, that may not be as sexy, but is like just as important, whether it's like an HVAC company or a plumbing company or something like that. Like think about some of those opportunities as well. Like if you're a business owner, like how can you have some of those more sustainable businesses that as we think about the next 10 or 20 years that like, won't be that AI won't be impacting as much, right?
That's a great point. Anyone else have anything else to add?
Yes. Yep. New AI would be on the table. And there is a lot of fear, and especially creative spaces and CPG land on what can be automated. Do we still need marketers? And I was at a recent talk, and the VP of Apple was just saying that human creativity and ingenuity can't be replicated. And yes, AI will come in and simplify and reduce, like Reginald's point, the headcount. But what can't be replicated is that intuition, that ability to influence. So as I think about AI models and how we're even using it and how, it will synthesize data for us, but we still have to come in as the marketer to make the business case to the organization. So I'd say as much as you can get practice with taking large sources of data, synthesizing that down into key insights, and then a strategy that says, here's what we're going to go do about this data to your leadership, getting practice with that now in your classes, in internships, that's going to be paramount to helping you succeed in the future. And so if there's things like case competitions, I mentioned I did a bunch of those. I think that was the most real life as to what I do day to day. It's like getting into a room saying, here's what the data told me, but here's what we should go do about it. That's the piece that makes you invaluable in the workplace. So practice it now.
We kind of started already getting into this too, but if there is any piece of advice that you would give to a student or someone trying to break into the marketing and creative industries, what recommendations would you give them? I know a lot of you mentioned internships and skills that they might want to acquire. Are there others that you haven't mentioned yet that you would recommend that they do to try to break into an industry like this? And anyone can go.
I could jump in. At least for the footwear and clothing space, I think at least for me personally, something that I tell a lot of the students, and this might not apply for everybody. I think just having a real love for it kind of makes it easier to really do your research and really go to work. And yes, I obsess about sneakers. I read a sneaker article every day, and I think like the fact that I get to be around people that I can talk to about that stuff is super important. It makes the job a little bit easier. Having the coworkers to speak about, either the market, the marketing side of things or the product side, I think is super important. But yeah, I think just really doing your research and really falling in love with, if you can, the product that you're trying to market.
So I'll take it from the stance a little bit of an entrepreneur. And Reginald might even agree with this. When we're talking about tangible things, like you say you come up with a certain product, a certain piece of clothing, maybe a certain service, like myself, even if it's just a hobby in the beginning, which is a lot of the times where that passion starts, keep track of your income, money in and out. Start separating your income um from your day job or traditional job income. Like keep those separate and track it. QuickBooks, highly recommend QuickBooks. Um, Even if it's just a hobby and you don't know if it's going to be that serious in the future, you really want to know what's happening with your money, how you're spending it, how much your work is actually yielding you, because that's going to help inform a decision, a bigger decision later down the road to say, is this something I can take full time? Can I support a family with this? You're going to have a bunch of historical data to tell you yes or no. So that would be my biggest word of advice from an entrepreneur's standpoint.
Yeah, I would add some of the things we've talked about tonight, right? So honing your curiosity and becoming curious now, practicing that in your current project, anything you've got going on. Ask 5 whys, what we say. So if there's a question on the table, ask why, then ask why again. Example we use, like if you're looking at a data set and you see that sales are down, it's like, okay, well, why are sales down? And then where are the sales down and what changed versus last year? So continuing to ask at least the 5 whys to get to the root of a true problem. Um, I'd also say that hone your global mindset and just working with different people of different backgrounds. So exposure that you can give to yourself to other ways of thinking can help inform a point of view. So like I mentioned, the study abroad piece, you've got classmates from all over. So, okay, thank you. But yeah, I'd say that would be the two that I would focus on to really make sure that you're prepared for how you enter into the workplace and set yourself up for success.
I'm gonna throw in a question that I didn't tell you I'm gonna ask ahead of time. um, can you share a moment where you learned from a failure or a mistake and how you kind of overcame that? I'll give you a second to think about it.
Yeah, I think first of all, I make a mistake every single day, and I think just becoming comfortable with that, especially like when you're in a new organization, a new role, like that is going to be the norm. Like you are trying, if you're making mistakes, you're trying, and hopefully you have a manager and you have a team who knows that, you have the best intentions and you're just, excited about the business and want to move forward. Earlier today, like I sent an email to the team. I had a meeting with my sales counterparts. They're really concerned about a certain account. They really want us to accelerate there. Send a note out to the team who manages the digital strategy. I'm like, hey, we really need to action this, so on and so forth. And then my manager reached out and was like, hey, maybe we should not have so much urgency there. Maybe, it shouldn't, come off like this. And so I think there's kind of two lessons in that. One, like you have to always be ready for the feedback, even if it's feedback, you're like, we're moving the business forward. Like, like we're doing the right thing here. And the second thing is like, so always that's number one. But number two is like, be very, and I learned this a lot in my first role, be very cautious about the way you're perceived in a workplace because perception is reality even if you don't know. Like I've seen that some people have not been so aware of what their brand is, and it has led to certain conversations being had about them that they didn't know was being had about them because like people weren't communicating that. And so like one thing I am is like I'm open to feedback. I want to hear it. I'm always asking for it. And I'm also very cognizant of like, what is my brand? What do people think of me here? What is my perception? And even at my first job, like the way that we were evaluated was through a model called Pi. It's probably like that at other companies too, but like performance, um, performance, image, and exposure, I believe were the three of them. And performance actually wasn't even the biggest, part of the pie. It was actually image and then exposure and then performance. So that would be my thing. Like definitely take feedback, be open to making mistakes, and definitely think about how you're being perceived by others.
Go ahead, Sid.
So not so much a specific story. I mean, I probably could dig one up if I really thought about it, but when you are really taking off, I guess, so to speak, with your brand, whether it be a product or a service that you're selling, in my case, again, a service, things can get exciting. You're making sales, you're booking more business, you may be um, taking on more employees, and it just seems all exciting. And you just want to take all the work you can get, like, which is great. But one of the things I learned a little late, I would say, is that not every client is your client. So just because you are seeing success and you are very excited, really think about who you're trying to go out and get. And again, what your brand is, because my brand um, definitely isn't for everyone. Right now, I don't know if you can see the logo in the top corner of my screen, but my entertainment company is called Fusion Function, and that's because we specialize in mixed race, multicultural celebrations, not so much your typical or traditional type of celebration. So um, I stand on that, and I have conversations all the time with people who may have some interest in my brand, but when we talk, we may discover that we're not the best fit, and that's okay. Um, because the more you get more comfortable saying no, you're gonna have a lot better of an experience operating and running your company with those clients that are in fact your clients. So um, that's what I would say to that.
I think a mistake that I made. Sorry. Who's speaking?
Go for
No,
it. Go for
no.
it.
Well, you got it. You got it.
Oh, all right, I'll take it. So from a brand perspective and working in brand management, one mistake I made early on is we have the responsibility to bring new product launches to life. And before it comes to hit the shelf, we have to make the case internally, the business case. And so you do a lot of consumer research, you do a lot of P&L analysis, you get your project ready to go and say, hey, to the organization, your leaders, we believe that this is going to drive X amount of sales and we'll do this for the business. And once I took one of those products to a large leader forum and it was denied, we didn't move forward with the project. And I at first felt personally deflated because I'm like, oh, my project didn't make it through. But in the end, my job was to bring the business case to the organization for the leaders to look at the full picture. There might be other projects going on that they don't have visibility to that I didn't have visibility to make that informed decision for the organization. So I think the lesson there was separating the business case versus the personal reflection on the work that I've done. So just to keep that in mind as you're going through any projects that you would take through to a leader, just think about it's not about me personally, it's about what's best for the business. And did I steward that business well?
That is exactly where I was gonna go. Early on, like I said, I'm in love with this industry, and we had our quarterly, collaborations call, and I walked in there with all these names and people that I think Reebok should collaborate with, and the first name I said got immediately shut down, and it wasn't even a shutdown like, oh no, like it was in my opinion just a little bit rude, and my manager actually understood how I felt about that, and obviously kind of saw how that person was speaking to me during that meeting. So I was backed up by my manager, but I took it personal, right? I said, I know the industry. I've been a consumer for all these years. Like, why wouldn't we work with this person? But I think early on, I took it personal and kind of didn't speak up enough, moving forward, which I feel like was my mistake. And obviously certain questions I would answer, but there would be times where, I didn't speak at those meetings like Reggie said. So I think that was my mistake, and I've learned from it, and I'm doing the projects that I'm doing now. So yeah.
Great. Um, we're coming up on about 45 minutes in, and I did want to leave room for questions. If you have any questions, you're welcome to come off mute and ask them live. I do have some backup questions just in case, and we can also end the call early if we need to. Or you can also write them into the chat and I'll ask them out loud.
Well, the questions are coming in. I had one more piece of advice I remembered I wanted to say. For anyone considering going down the grad school route, my advice is to take your standardized test like right after you leave Bentley, or even, that last year while you're still in student mode, because often something like a GMAT or any of the other tests, the scores last for 5 years. So if you can do it while you're fresh in that student mode, I highly recommend it because it's harder to get back in after you've been out of school for a while. So
That's great advice.
No one's got any questions in the chat yet?
I got a question.
Go ahead, Dotson.
Can I ask a question? I think so. I'm in a space where the industry, well, the organization that I'm in is kind of doing a lot of transitions, and a lot of our ERGs and a lot of our spaces. Again, like when I got to Reebok, it was young, it was vibrant, there was a lot of people that look like me from senior leadership to my level. I think the question is how, if you guys have experienced that one, and how have you navigated, like not surviving, but adapting and maintaining yourself in those spaces, since you're losing a lot of the things that kind of helped you navigate through the workplace.
Yeah, that one's very top of mind as we've had to change some of the language around what other groups are being called internally around our affinity groups and just how it's talked about internally and externally. I found that even outside of the formal structure, still finding those points of connectivity with people who are like-minded or look like me or have those similar interests. And I've started kind of more grassroots attempts to stay connected, like setting up WhatsApp groups, making sure that we have spaces that we feel safe to have these conversations in. So I've taken a little rogue approach, but for me, it's not about the structure and the formality of it. It's about still keeping that connection with people that can help me, stay energized through the workday and in a place where you may feel like there's a lot against you every day. So you do need those safe spaces to go to.
I'll also plug a little bit. We're trying to build some of this also with the Bentley Network. We know that the Bentley alumni community is large, but when it comes to um, what we now call Mosaic or Alana or whatever it was when you were there, trying to keep us all together too. Because when you're in school, we're kind of all together, and you probably know the people a few years above you, a few years behind you, but how can we really connect to multiple generations? And we do have currently a LinkedIn group. We have sort of a WhatsApp group on the side too, but we're working on trying to build out some of these communities, because there could be people in your industry or in your area that you don't even know exists because we're not well connected in that way and we want to be. Kane, I think you tried to come off mute to ask a question. I do have a question in the chat too, but I'll let you go first.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much. I am extremely proud to see all of your names and faces and have been, softly following you guys as you've, matriculated since 2004, which was when I was there at Bentley. My question, having been 20 something years out and you all have been in somewhat in the middle, how are you viewing boardship? How are you viewing mentorship while at Bentley? It was like, okay, I'll do that when I get gray hair and, the wife, kids, and the picket fence. But in these times, the Bentley mind, especially in the marketing and in the nonprofit space versus the corporate, business direction. So I just wanted to, this is an amazing panel, and I'd love to get just some takes on that.
I can kick us off. I remember the first time I heard about what a board was actually at Bentley. I think it might have been the Center for Women in Business who did a panel. And it was just talking about private boards primarily, but also nonprofit boards. And actually, when I was at Bentley, I had started to kind of toy with the idea about, okay, like how could I learn about what a board is and just figure that out. And then there was also a class that I took, which was an amazing class. It was through service learning, and it was talking about boards and nonprofit boards and like finding different ways to serve. Now, as I say it out loud, I'm like, okay, now I see how everything ended up panning out. But I ended up joining the compensation and benefits committee for my middle school, right? And that in some ways like a entryway to a board, right? And so for me, I was on that committee for about 3 years. And then I kind of like tapered off a little bit, but I recently joined the board of trustees for that. So now I'm on the board for my middle school. And then I also joined the board for the Institute of Contemporary Art Boston, the ICA in Seaport. And I was in their team programs a while back. So board service is like top of mind for me a lot right now because it allows you to give back to an organization that has given so much to you. It allows you to network with folks who are, way ahead of you and have established careers, and, they can teach you a lot. And it allows you to stay in the know of what's happening in different industries, right? Like knowing what's happening in the art world and knowing what's happening in the marketing world and bringing that back to them and vice versa has been great. Even with education, we know now there is a huge attack on education nationwide. And so thinking about what the curriculum is, how are we ensuring that the students of the future are, being prepared in the right ways, both from an education standpoint, but also in terms of setting them up for success when it comes to, different internships and opportunities and things like that. So, the boards, I'm happy to connect with anybody about it, but boards are really top of mind for me, and they're very valuable, and because they're mutually beneficial. You get to give a lot to them, but they also give a lot back to you.
100% agree with that. It's very timely. I actually just joined my first nonprofit board this year for an organization called United We Heal Film Festival. So United We Heal, it's an organization that puts on a film festival in the Philadelphia area for Black and Brown independent filmmakers. So if anyone's around in Philly, around Juneteenth of next year, it'll be our 5th year running this festival. But serving as a board member, it has been something that, I thought I would do, years out when I was kind of old and gray. But no, I think it's something to get involved with as soon as you can. And you can start building the skill sets needed to serve on a board in your clubs, in your enterprise groups at your organization. And that has really helped set me up for success to help guide this organization of filmmakers and creatives. So it does allow you to tap into 100% of what Reginald was saying about giving back to a community, but also to sharpen your skills and bring the skills that you've gained in all of these for-profit groups to a nonprofit organization. So I'm at an event supporting the board right now at the Lincoln Financial Center where the Eagles play. So it's, yes, board duty never stops, is what I've learned already. So I love it.
Anyone else want to jump in on that? I would add to volunteering and I think working in an independent school myself made me a more active alum. It really jump started my volunteer work with Bentley. I've been on 3 different boards and committees with Bentley over the last 5 years. And I'm also a mentor for my high school. I'm on the board of my middle school. I help lead the faculty of color at all the independent schools within Fairfield County, Connecticut, and Westchester, New York. It's become sort of a passion of mine to help make these spaces happen, and definitely very rewarding as well. And I'm able to cross skills all the time and learn from different places. Um, we have one question in the chat that I think might be a great way to finale. Um, what would your student self think of your career and who you've become at this moment?
I'll jump in. Oh, so you said you got hands up first.
Yeah, mine will be a little quick. I think it would be a combination of, wow, you really wasted all that money just to be a DJ, huh? And then, and then the other part of it would be, wow, that's pretty awesome. Like I understand that, like, the passion for music was always there. I could see that happening, but did you really have to waste 40K a year plus on that? And my answer would be yes, because if I had not pursued that degree at Bentley, I would not have discovered that passion for DJing.
That's awesome. I'm in the role that I wanted to be in, collaborations. That's the space I've always wanted to be in, and at least from a career standpoint, I think on the other side of that, I think my student self would say, "Hey, like this thing that you created, this kind of environment that you created in high school and at Bentley, being that Myth Boston, like you kind of need to do that a little bit more at this point." And um, but yeah, I think career wise, like getting into the sneaker space, and literally 2 weeks ago, I was in Las Vegas for a streetwear convention, and so coming back and being a part and seeing all these people that I've followed for years in the fashion space is something that they would be proud of. I think just to quickly just go back to the last question, I think just adding on, the fact that I am community involved, right? So going back to Bentley, going to high schools, middle schools, and I've donated hundreds of sneakers to local boys, well, my local boys and girls club in the Blue Hill area. So I think just being proud of that is something that they definitely would be. So yeah.
I think for me, I'd say my younger self would probably be proud but not satisfied. I think a lot of my time at Bentley was like where I gained my work ethic and where I dreamed, right? And I dreamed like very big, I had very big ideas about kind of what the future would be. And so I am a little bit surprised that this soon I'm in, fashion, which is something I've always said that I've always wanted to be in, but my younger self would be like, what's next? How do we make it even better?
What year are you again, Reginald? What class?
21.
21?
Yeah,
Oh, you
21.
have, yeah, you have plenty of time. Go ahead, don't play.
Yeah, I think she'd be proud. She'd say, yes, you did it. Like working at a big global brand in marketing, what I signed up to go to Bentley for and actually landed a job in that. When I know, I think I'm very fortunate to have that, but that's not happening across the board. So I think she'd be really proud, and proud of the consistency and just, have every step of the way leveraging networks, staying connected to folks, thinking about how I showed up in spaces was always important to me, starting at Bentley and still seeing that and how I show up today and being recognized for that has been important. So I think she'd be proud of the consistency, um, and landing where I intended to land. But I also, I mean, not me talking to her, I'd say take more risks. So anyone that's still coming through, like go further or like meet with those people that don't look like you and that you never would have an organic conversation with out in the real world while you're at Bentley or beyond. Like that's a safe space to connect with people that become a part of your foundational network throughout your lifetime, right? The people I met at Bentley, I can still reach out, right? Kia's reaching out like years from us talking the last time, and we still have that love and connection for each other. So I think building as many of those connections while you're in school is important, and to keep that going along the way. So network, connect, and take more risks.
Beautiful ending. This has been great. Thank you so much to each of our panelists for doing this. You answered the call and answered the email and, arrived on time and did this. And I think your love for your experience at Bentley, your love for your industry and your career showed throughout all of your answers and all the different versions of what you do, but still the same essence and what great advice you shared. This will be saved and recorded and actually posted. So we're hoping that more people can see this in the future. And this is a great resource for students and young alumni who are thinking about the creative industries and the variety of different experiences that you shared. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And I hope you all have an amazing evening. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks, everyone.
Go Falcons. Yay.
Go Patriots.
Thank you all.
Bye,
This
guys.
was great. Good night.
Good night.
Have a good oh, and join the LinkedIn group. It's in the chat.
I'll do. Thanks, Kia. Great job
Bye.
moderating. Bye.
Excellent job. Thank you.